In our first headline, why Netflix and Hollywood spend millions to win Oscars. And in our second headline, squeezed. Kraft Heinz is in trouble. Tough times for a consumer goods giant backed by 3G Capital and Warren Buffett. Those two headlines, plus the big idea tying them all together, and much more on today's Money in the Morning. All right, welcome to Money in the Morning. I am Bobby Rebell from the Financial Grown Up Podcast, coming to you from my very grown up kitchen in New York City. My partner, Joe Saul-Sehy, is away. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But this is the podcast where we cover two recent stories ripped from the financial press. We don't just read them, though, like some podcasts. We get to why they matter to you, to your wallet, and what they do to your investing, your saving, and your debt strategies. We want to make it more effective. We want to give you tools that you can use in your life to help have more money and live a richer life. And we're going to wrap it all up with a big idea at the end of today's show that you can take with you and think about and hopefully integrate in your finances. Think about it for the rest of your day. Think about it going forward. Here we go. Today's show is sponsored by Lemonade Insurance. Lemonade reverses the traditional insurance model. With Lemonade, everything becomes simple and transparent. Lemonade takes a flat fee, pays claims super fast, and gives back what's left to causes you care about. That's my favorite part about it. Go to stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade for more. All right, good morning, everyone. As I mentioned in the intro, my partner, Joe Saul-Sehy, is not here. Apparently, he left a rush note saying something about going trampoline shopping with his mom. He might be back later this afternoon. I'm not sure, but we miss him. We'll have him back soon for you. But I'm in charge for now, so let's go to Laura with the headlines.
And now, your first Money in the Morning headline.
All right, everyone. First headline, very apropos after coming off the Oscars this weekend. We are talking about Netflix, Hollywood, and why they spend so much to win the Oscars. This is a CNN piece by Frank Pallotta. Very well done, Frank. Thank you for your piece and for your reporting efforts. Let's begin. All right. Academy Award winners will likely thank, and by the way, this was written just before the awards, so there is reference forward, if that makes sense. They're going to thank their entourage, their family, and God for receiving Hollywood's highest honor, but they might owe their biggest debt to the studios that footed the bill for their pricey Oscar campaigns. Variety reported last month that campaigns for films looking to nab an Oscar nomination in multiple categories can cost $20 million to $30 million. That may seem like a steep price for an 8.5-pound statue, but winning or just being nominated can change a studio's fortune overnight. An Oscar can bring prestige to small studios like A24, and major studios like Disney can show they don't just produce blockbusters, they can also win awards. All right, but the battle for an Oscar is no longer just a competition between traditional studios. And you guys know this. Tech companies like Netflix and Amazon have swooped in recent years to give them a run for their money. Roma, anybody, right? Kyle Buchanan, the New York Times awards reporter, told CNN Business, everyone has a different agenda for why they want to be in contention, whether it is shoring up someone's reputation or if you are a studio executive trying to lure more people to work with you because you've proven you can create something that is recognized by the pinnacle of this industry. And then it is going to go into why each of the various, let's call them stakeholders, want to win. I'm just going to go through the key points for each one for the sake of brevity. Okay, so first you have Netflix. The article goes on to say with its outsider status, they've been chided for its attempts to disrupt the rules and establish order in the movie industry, and the established order, I should say, in the movie industry. But now they're inserting themselves into a game played by big studios. Reportedly, Netflix spent almost $30 million on a campaign for Best Picture contender Roma, which, by the way, did not win Best Picture, but it won a ton of other awards. Why does Netflix need to do this? Well, the article goes on to say, like any studio, Netflix can use its Oscar haul to court talent, which it needs in order to create exclusive content for subscribers. And that's a big thing because even though they are the big Goliath here, I guess, they still need people to stay with them. People can end their subscription at any time if there's not something compelling that they want to watch. And that's why Netflix obviously is paying so much money for content in general. All right, back to the article. There's another reason why Netflix wants to win. It's eager to disrupt any industry it can get its hands on, according to Buchanan. Netflix has been trying to change the very idea of how audiences watch movies by releasing its films on its services at the same time as they are in theaters, by foregoing the theatrical release. So I think Roma was in the theaters extremely briefly. That is very disruptive because it closes that window that the big studios need to make their money up front. And it's something that Amazon has not done. In fact, the article goes on to say Amazon has been able to enter the Oscars race without much controversy, largely because Amazon does play by the rules. And it talks about how it did that with its contender, Manchester by the Sea. Just want to take a couple comments before I go on with the article. Kathy is here in our Facebook Live audience, and she says, more power to Netflix, except a lot of people don't see those movies. Well, I think a lot of people watch Roma, or certainly will be more interested maybe in watching Roma. We'll see. We'll see what the after effect is. They certainly got a lot of publicity from the awards that they did win. All right, let's go on and talk about why a small studio wants to win. An Oscar contender, back to the article here, can also boost a studio's bottom line. The headlines garnered from a nomination or a win means a movie has legs long after it has left theaters, according to Dana Paulin, a professor in the Department of Cinema Studies at New York University. Quote, a film that wins can always be talked about as the Oscar-winning such and such. In today's Hollywood, a film doesn't simply exist in its first run. It'll exist as a DVD, as a streaming release, and so on. And all of that will likely include the mention of the Oscar. And that's a big deal to studios, the article goes on to say, like the one A24, which is a low-budget prestige filmmaker. They had the Best Picture winner Moonlight in the past. So that's important for the small theaters. And then let's go, I do want to mention, for the small theaters, if they aren't small studios, if they don't get any nod, that can be really hard on them because they, like a movie, the article mentions a movie called Eighth Grade, which I saw. I thought it was an excellent movie. It was critically acclaimed, coming of age film, just did not get the nods for Oscars, and it made only $13 million at the box office. And the article goes on to say that's probably going to be really the end of the line for a movie like 13, which is kind of a shame. Let's go on to what a big studio wants to win and why they spend so much money. All right. So what about Disney and Warner Brothers? Black Panther and A Star is Born made $1.3 billion and $423 million worldwide, respectively. So it's not like they need the extra attention that a Best Picture nomination can bring. Isn't the money enough of a reward? The article goes on to say. Well, not for the people making the films, according to Buchanan. The people who work on these movies, by and large, are artists. They want to be appreciated as artists by other artists in the town. So you're looking at, the stars of movies like Black Panther and A Star is Born, and those people like a Bradley Cooper, Lady Gaga, they want the accolades that come and the prestige that comes. And the article goes on to talk about the fact that, for example, with Bradley Cooper, an A-list actor can star in a billion-dollar franchise like The Hangover, as well as make a passion project like A Star is Born. In other words, wrapping it up here, it's less about the box office bump and more about poaching and retaining talent. So that is what the big studios get out of it. So there you go. Audience comments while I start talking about this a little bit more. Thank you guys. You guys are really good. We have a very nice studio audience. And for anyone who is listening to the audio version, please join us. Facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. We tape the shows in front of a live Facebook audience. And as you've been hearing, we do take their comments live. So it's a lot of fun. And we'd love to have you. All right, let's take a comment from Lori. She says, innovation always moves the needle. So it will be interesting to see how Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, and the others change things in the next few years. Excellent comment by Lori. All right. What I think is interesting about this article is that it goes to being liked. And if you are liked, if you get accolades publicly, something like an Oscar, and in our own life, whatever it may be, it could be Employee of the Month. It could just mean a recognition award at your company or someone even just paying you a compliment and you feel liked. If you develop a network of people and you get these kind of recognition in your community, that's going to give you leverage. If people think highly of you, you're going to be able to recruit the best people to work with. You're going to be able to recruit the best resources for whatever your project is. It also goes to your personal brand. When you talk about Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, their personal brand is improved by being associated with a movie that won an Oscar. That's always going to be good. And that's kind of like raising your credit score, because if people believe in you, you have a track record of success, you're going to have a better time when you need to get a loan because you've got that track record, you've got that history of paying off your bills or whatever it may be, that people will feel good doing business with you. You're basically a more attractive person to do business with, and you're going to have more leverage when it comes to negotiating. For Hollywood movies, I thought it was also interesting that they talked about the different lifespans of the movies. That it used to just be, of course, the theater run, and then we'd probably never hear about it again. But now there's so many different income streams. And so the only one that first went out before you got the Oscar boost was the original theatrical run. Some will go back in the theater, of course, and they will have that. But you're also going to get these second, third, fourth, fifth lives when it goes international, if it hasn't already or continues to. You're going to get the streaming, you're going to get the DVDs, and so on. And all of that is going to have that Oscar thing. So when people are looking for movies to watch, they're going to see, oh, wow, that was an Oscar movie. I should really take a look at that. Maybe that's something that I would like. Certainly a lot of other people liked. So that said, I will say it is only one opinion, and I think that Kathy is making a comment here. She pays more attention to audience reviews. I think that's fair. Cameron is making a comment. She says acknowledgement from your peers and industry goes a long way. And Elizabeth, thank you. She says, yes, it's great credibility. And thank you, Mike, for saying, well said, Bobby. Appreciate that. And see, this is very meta because you guys are actually doing that for me right now. How cool is that? All right, let's get to the takeaway from our first headline, and that is being liked pays off. How about that? I think that's pretty well said and summed down summary from all of us. How about that? All right, let's move on to our second headline, everyone. And this is something that there were so many stories written about, and it's a bit complicated. So I wanted to talk about it because it goes to a lot of the struggles that companies have as our bigger economy goes through larger changes. And so the second headline is about Kraft Heinz, which is now one company, and it's in fact a holding company for many companies you may not even realize that they own, like Anheuser-Busch. They also have Burger King wrapped in there, all through a conglomerate called 3G. So let me read you the story. It is by The Economist, and I think that it was a group collaboration. There's not a specific author that is named on the story, but it's a really well done story, and it's pretty thorough, so we're not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to go through some of this because I think that we can all learn a lot from the story about Kraft Heinz. All right, here we go. From The Economist, squeezed, Kraft Heinz is in trouble. Tough times for a consumer goods giant backed by 3G Capital and Warren Buffett. Yes, Warren Buffett. Oh no, Lori's talking about, she takes notice of news about Heinz because she is a Pittsburgh girl. It'll be okay. All right, let's keep going. Here we go. The king of mac and cheese is in a sticky spot. On February 21st, Kraft Heinz, a consumer goods giant whose brands include HP sauce and Oscar Mayer hot dogs, announced it faced 4 serious problems. The company said profits in 2019 would be well below expectations. I guess that's number 1. It cut its dividend. Number 2. It disclosed that it had received a subpoena from the Securities and Exchange Commission regarding its accounting policies. 3. And number 4 here. And it announced a $15.4 billion write down of goodwill, pushing it to a $12.6 billion with a B dollar loss for the fourth quarter of 2018. And of course, no surprise, everyone, that the stock has been losing ground since then. All right, on a call with Wall Street analysts, the company said that the impairment was linked to supply chain issues and rises in interest rates. So, in other words, things that weren't their fault. All right, that makes its future cash flow less valuable, the interest rates, of course. But analysts worry it is facing deeper challenges. Consumers are yearning for healthier, less processed food. Supermarkets are giving fresh produce more space at the expense of tinned products. And the rise of online grocers like Amazon is further disrupting distribution channels. And just to keep in mind, even before the latest sell off, Kraft shares had fallen about a third since 2015. The group's woes are feeding doubts about its business model and heralding a possible fall from grace of the lean and mean investment strategy, followed by 3G Capital. So pay attention here, guys. 3G Capital, the Brazilian buyout house that has controlled the firm since 2013. Okay? And by the way, its founders include Brazil's richest man, a guy named Paulo Lemon. I'm sure I'm completely destroying the pronunciation. And yes, Lori is commenting on our Facebook Live audience. Ouch, none of those points are good news. No, we could tell by the headline. Things are not good at Kraft Heinz, according to them themselves and according to the analysts. And what we're going to talk about is kind of what is going on behind the scenes. And it seems like Kraft Heinz is doing a little bit of, it's not really us, it's the macroeconomy, blah, blah, blah. But the analysts are saying, well, maybe not only that, maybe there's some other stuff going on. All right, I want to skip ahead in the article and talk about the debt and the acquisitions that were going on with this company. So bold acquisitions, back to the article, financed with dollops of debt are only one facet of 3G's method. The firm is also known for aggressive cost cutting. Oh, I should mention they took on a lot of debt to make these acquisitions that it made over the years. Tim Hortons, things like that. They also bought Anheuser-Busch and Burger King. They're also known for their aggressive cost cutting through an approach known as zero-based budgeting. That basically means getting managers to justify every single company expense, big or small, and critics have resented the human cost. Kraft Heinz have some 10,000 fewer staff than they did in 2013. But of course, investors have been impressed. 3G's firms became more profitable, and Warren Buffett, here he comes, a vastly successful investor, co-invested with them to purchase Heinz and then followed on with Kraft. So Warren Buffett, it's interesting because he is known to be a very conservative investor, really only invests in products that he knows. And it sounds like he would know these kind of household goods, but at the same time, it's unusual to see Warren Buffett's name in a piece and a story like this because we're reading the Economist piece, but the truth is the story is really everywhere. And I just want to skip to the very last part of the article because I do love this writing by The Economist. Quote, like a souffle that ends up falling, profits boosted by lean and mean tactics may not be sustainable in the long run. 3G will have to invest more in its businesses to turn them around. That may sound like an old trick. Then again, cutting costs to boost returns was hardly inventing the wheel. So I thought that was kind of a witty end to the article. And Tom is here with us on our Facebook Live audience. He says, sounds like a good time to buy. Products from Kraft Heinz aren't going anywhere. Well, that's what's in debate, Tom, because a lot of people are saying that Americans' eating habits are changing and that the products that they make now, for the most part, and things are evolving, and other companies have certainly evolved. Pepsi is one of them that has certainly evolved and changed their product lineup. But what they're saying, and I know Tom is actually Canadian, so let's just say North America to include our friends north of the border, that tastes are changing, and so it's not that easy to say that. Lori commenting on Warren Buffett's involvement in this, saying, "I would think Buffett would like a zero-based budget." Yes, I would think so too, because Warren Buffett is obviously someone that's going to watch the bottom line and be smart about investing. But it sounds like this maybe went a little bit too far. overall, I would just add there are a lot of problems with this company right now. They're pointing fingers at things that are beyond its control, saying, well, it's not us, right? The overall economy, they can't impact interest rates necessarily. So they don't feel that that's their fault. And they feel that things are going to get better. And they, of course, want to calm investors because their stock has gone down pretty sharply. But here's the thing, the analysts say that the company is not paying attention to big things that are changing in the world. For example, the rise of online grocers. Also, it's debt. It took on a lot of debt to make all of these acquisitions, and debt was cheap right now. But the cost of debt has been rising, as we all know. And, I love the analogy at the end of comparing it to a souffle that is falling. And of course, let's remember they are controlled by this Brazilian company, 3G, which does have this lean and mean strategy. And people are concerned that that may not be the best thing that they can do right now. And let me just. All right, Tom is coming back with me. As we mentioned, Tom is in our Facebook Live audience, and he is Canadian. And he says, here in Canada, we need our craft dinner and Tim Hortons. Well, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. We have no reason to believe that. But the stock is definitely not going in the right direction for investors that have a long position. All right, let's keep going. So I did bring along comments from Quartz. And okay, I'm just going to keep going. We had a little blip there. So as some of you may or may not know, I am what's called a pro picker on the Quartz platform. And so that means that when stories come out that I find interesting, I comment on them and everyone can see them that follows me in our feed. I have about 45,000 followers. It is a lot of fun. You guys should check out the Quartz app. But I did pull a couple of comments from the Quartz app from the pro pickers that are there with me. Some big names, for example, Roger McNamee was talking about this piece in the Quartz app. He is from Elevation Partners. And Roger McNamee said regarding the Heinz Quartz story, when the full story comes out, I wonder if the source of the problems may not be something other than changing food tastes. I guess, and of course, I know Tom in Canada, those changing food tastes are not happening in Canada, according to Tom. All right, back to the quote from Roger McNamee. LBO funds love to buy venerable brands and squeeze cash out of them, counting on the enduring popularity of the brands to keep the bottom from falling out. Too often, the funds go too far and kill a business that did not have to die. Oh gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. I do not know that this is the case with Kraft Heinz, but it would not surprise me. So that is some tough words from Roger McNamee. The other quote that I brought from Quartz is from James Kakmak, an entrepreneur and tech analyst. He says, quote, expect this to become a major theme across all commodity-based brands. This is all a function of the internet, i.e. the elimination of physical shelf space, emergence and adoption of niche brands fueled by online reviews, I would add probably influencers too, and the diminishing relevance of brand advertising as content consumption and shopping patterns evolve. It's only going to get worse for commodities that relied heavily on advertising to build consumer mindshare. The Energizer Bunny should watch its back as Amazon basics take over. Ooh, that is harsh. Anyway, so that's basically the thoughts on that article. The takeaway, let's get to that. And that is about leverage. So this company, 3G, is highly leveraged when it comes to all of these acquisitions that it made. So that is basically making everything that much worse. If they weren't so leveraged, people wouldn't be as concerned. The comment Roger McNamee made was pretty serious when you think about it. The idea that this company could die, I think that's probably a little too severe, but he said it. Okay. And this also goes to everything that we do, whether we're, for example, buying a house. If you buy a house, you think you're a genius if you buy it and it goes up. If you're leveraged, even more so. But of course, if you're leveraged and it goes down, the whole thing can come crashing down, metaphorically, with you. And that can be really dangerous. So it's really important that you think about how much you want to leverage and what's the smart move, because the leverage, as I said, will amplify everything. All right, before we move on to the big idea, I want to take a comment from Lori. Lori says, agility is everything. Businesses need to stay up to date with what the public wants. Remember how low carb hurt the orange juice industry? That is an excellent point. And it's interesting because we do go through these food phases, and a big company like Kraft Heinz can't always adapt so quickly. But you do have companies like Pepsi that have done a pretty good job of changing their mix of what they're selling. Even, Coca-Cola moving into just selling a lot of water and different things as the tastes change. And I'm sure there's different patterns around the world of what sells the most. But the important thing, I think, in this story, beyond the product mix and beyond not being in denial about what's really going on with companies like Amazon, online groceries, and all that, is that this is a company that, because their holding company, the owners, really took out a lot of debt to make these acquisitions. Everything's being amplified because of that decision. And that's something we need to take into our own lives and think about. Are we over leveraged? Maybe we're reaching too much. Maybe we should take the time to maybe build up our finances before making that big purchase, or maybe make a purchase that maybe is something smaller. Maybe this company didn't need to make so many huge acquisitions. All right, let's take one more comment before we move on, and that is from Robert. And he says, as long as there is Kraft mac and cheese, they should be fine. Tastes are changing, though. Well, that is true. Mac and cheese is a classic. I don't know if they have a gluten-free version. That would be interesting to see, because that's something that would reflect changing tastes. All right, before we get to the big idea, I want to just talk to you about, when you talk about leverage, you talk about needing to be protected. And one way to be protected is with insurance. And so for that reason, we want to thank one of our sponsor today, and that is Lemonade. Lemonade Insurance. Lemonade reverses the traditional insurance model. So with Lemonade, basically everything, they keep it simple, they keep it transparent. What they do is they take a flat fee, they pay the claims super fast. In fact, you can even basically make a video and send in the video of what happened, and then they will get back to you. And what's also nice is, after the flat fee, after the appropriate costs are covered, they will actually make a donation to causes that you care about. So that's something that I really like about this company. And of course, we like the fact that they support us. So if you are interested in learning more about Lemonade, go to stackingbenjamins.com/lemonade for more. And of course, we thank them and we thank you in advance, because if you do so, that helps to support the show, because they send us a little bit of a thank you. So we're going to talk about the big idea in just a minute. We'll see if we get any comments from our audience. I do have a comment from Lauren, not about the big idea just yet. I don't know if we have any guesses about the big idea, but Lauren says, are we over leveraged? My new hashtag motto. Thank you for that. And we're getting lots of little smiley faces from the audience. As I mentioned, we do tape this live in front of a Facebook Live audience, and we hope you'll join us next time. You can go to facebook.com/I Stack Benjamins to the Stacking Benjamins page and set an alert, and that will let you know when we are coming to do a live taping. All right, let's get to the big idea for today. And that is, you're only as good as your last deal, guys. So you got to stay on top of things. Just like the Oscars, your reputation can change in just one thing that happens, one big thing. So the movie 13, I talked about, I'm sorry, I called it the movie Eighth Grade, mixing up my movies. That was another movie years ago. The movie Eighth Grade, which I thought was a great movie, but it didn't get nominated. It was MIA, and basically that meant they lost out on millions. The flip side is winners like Netflix's Roma. So that is going to give Netflix and basically everyone associated with that movie a lot of leverage. That one movie makes such a difference. So the stakes are so high. And then, of course, for Kraft Heinz, all of those deals to buy companies using what was then very cheap debt and slashing costs very aggressively is coming back to haunt them. So you need to be careful about deals that look good in the short term. And you might over leverage because you think you can afford it, but then things change. So if you don't think ahead to the future value, for example, with the housing markets, changing with the generations, for example, these days, a lot of young people don't want the houses that, let's say the millennials, we'll just throw out the generational names. The millennials may not want the same houses that the boomers wanted or that the Gen Xers wanted. And that affects the value for everything. So it's important to be careful, be deliberate, and know that you are only as good as your last deal. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Money in the Morning. Please follow me on Twitter at Bobby Rebel, on Instagram at Bobby Rebel1, and follow my partner, Joe Saul-Sehy, who will be back very soon, I promise, as soon as he gets that trampoline ready with his mom and comes back to his mom's half-finished basement. You can follow him at Average Joe Money on Twitter. And always remember, if you want to live a rich life, you got to be a financial grown-up.
This show is created by Joe Saul-Sehy, hosted and produced by Bobby Rebel and Joe Saul-Sehy, is engineered by Caden Thompson, and all put together by a pack of well-trained ferrets down here in Joe's mom's basement. You'll find Bobby at the Financial Grown-Up Podcast and Joe at the Stacking Benjamin Show. Go say hi to them there, too. Online, visit us on Twitter at Average Joe Money and at Bobby Rebel, or come join a live recording at our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/iStackBenjamins. I know you already know this too, but Money in the Morning is for entertainment purposes only. You should not act on anything recommended by a bunch of entertainers in a basement or even a Manhattan kitchen without first consulting your financial advisor. And second, dude, have your head examined. Have headlines you'd like us to discuss? Send them to joe@stackingbenjamins.com or put them on our Stacking Benjamins closed Facebook group. This show is a collaboration of Stacking Benjamins LLC and BRK Media LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor Doug, and I reserve the right to always say, we'll see you next time back here on Money in the Morning.